Behind me is my new car, a 2006 MK5 Jetta. It has the extremely desirable 5-speed manual and the 5-cylinder motor. The most surprising part about it is that I got it for only $1,700. And in the 2022 enthusiast market, or for an enthusiast car, it's not really an enthusiast car, $1,700 for a manual transmission 5-cylinder car is an incredible value. So why don't you hop in and I'll basically explain to you how I did it. So while this car may be new to the channel, it's not new to me. I have had it on the road for about a week now, but I have had the car for over a month at this point. Because when I got the car, it did have quite a few issues that were going to keep it from getting inspected. And those issues were little things like snow tires that were slightly dry rotted, and the snow tires also rubbed when you took certain left turns. So I really wanted to get those replaced. It also has an ABS and traction control light on, which theoretically should have been failed. More on that later. And that was most likely a bad wheel speed sensor or something with the wheel speed sensors, or the hubs that the wheel speed sensors read off of. Then the car also had some rust. Well, they put a speed trap up here. The car also had some rust holes. This is New England. This car lived in Vermont, according to the title. So this car was a Vermont car. So I'm not too surprised that it has a lot of rust issues. That happens with every car around here. Especially in Manchester, New Hampshire, they use a lot of salt on their roads, and that's where this car was before. The car also had an engine light on for a bad purge valve, for an evap issue, which I narrowed down to a bad purge valve, which is part of the emission system. Yeah, so literally the first thing I did when I got the car was I just started ripping out rust. My father has a Volkswagen Rabbit, which is basically this car but a hatchback, and he had issues with rust, so I knew to look exactly at that, and that's exactly what I did. I just ripped out rust. I just kept pulling handfuls of rust out. That was like, I spent like a couple hours doing that, and I made sure to get all of the flaky rust and all the surface was off, or at least scored with a wire brush. After that, I used a rust treatment solution. It's like, I'll put it up on screen now. It's basically a 3-part solution. One part of the solution essentially kills the rust. One part cleans it. The next part kills the rust. And then the last part is like a rubberized coating sort of thing it's like a preventative measure that stops new rust from forming, theoretically, obviously. And I basically treated, in the pictures you see, I treated all those areas. And then after that, I was left with these giant holes in the body, which obviously wouldn't do, because you cannot have like jagged metal in New Hampshire. You can have rust, but you can't have jagged metal. So I ended up using this fiberglass resin jelly stuff, and I basically just slathered that over it. Obviously, after sanding the stuff a little bit to make sure that it stick, I slathered that over it. I went over the rust holes with a couple coats of fiberglass, and then over that with some Bondo. This was kind of a long process. And just like that, I painted over it, and the rust was basically completely gone. The bodywork that I did wasn't great, so there is kind of a bulge on the, what would that be? That would be the passenger side. That's kind of noticeable from like close up, and kind of noticeable from far away, but it's not really, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm happy with the way it came out and that my car did get inspected in the end. The next issue that I had was the purge valve. That was literally just taking the engine cover off and replacing this little, probably about that big, it was this little plastic valve. I did test the old one just to make sure that was the issue, and the test failed. It leaked. The purge valve is an always on type of valve, and if it leaks, that means that there is an issue with the diaphragm inside. And it did leak, so I replaced it, and I have not had the engine light come back on. I've driven 800 miles in the past 2 weeks somehow. I drive a lot, so like we went to like Canopy Lake, which is way over that way. So that was the purge valve issue. Next was the traction control and ABS lights. The previous owner said that it was most likely a bad wheel speed sensor, and I kind of agreed with that. I mean, I didn't have I didn't have like a VDS system or anything to test it with. However, I just that would make sense in my mind. So I ordered 2 front wheel speed sensors when I got the car, and they came right around the time that I finished with the rust prevention. So I ended up installing those, didn't fix the issue. I ordered the rear ones, however, I had already scheduled my inspection for the day that they would arrive. So a little bit more on that later. I'll get to the inspection later. The car also had front windshield tint. For some reason, the previous owner tinted all around 35. 35 is legal in the rear in New Hampshire, not on the front at all. You can't have any tint on the front. And as much as I liked having the tint on the front, it was very legal, and I was not going to pass inspection no matter what. No shop is going to pass you with that. So I did end up removing that. So then it was my first inspection day. And when I went in for the inspection, I knew 100% that I was going to fail. Right, I had the traction control and ABS light on. However, I didn't fail. The guy was nice enough. I don't know if it was legal or if he just just ignored it. I knew also my exhaust was loud. It only has a resonator and a catalytic converter on it. It doesn't have a dedicated muffler, which theoretically in New Hampshire with RSA, whatever, is technically legal. However, I kind of thought I was going to fail because of the exhaust. So, and luckily my car passed inspections for safety, however, did not pass emissions inspections, which in New Hampshire, you have 60 days to fix. So I was given a temporary inspection sticker. After my first inspection, I basically just had to drive a bunch of miles to make sure that the readiness monitors were properly set, which after like 100 miles, they were properly set. We're doing some off-roading action here. This is the logging road I'm on right now. I really shouldn't be on a logging road with my brand new tires. Which, yeah, I bought brand new tires for this car. I paid like $85 each. They're cheaper all seasons, but they are pretty nice. They're lower profile so that they don't rub. Again, I shouldn't be off-roading with lower profile tires. I shouldn't really be off-roading in this vehicle anyway. I've never actually had a car. Otherwise, the car has been, great. I can fit my mountain bike in the trunk. I do a lot of mountain biking, so I can lay it down right in the trunk. I can get everything in, and then if I want to have friends in the car, I just take off my back wheel, and I can actually fit my mountain bike sideways. I've had to do that a couple times. I just fit it sideways and stack the wheels, so I can fit, 5 people. I mean, nobody wants to sit on the fucking hump in the center console, but yeah, you get the point. It's a very, very good car. And it's good on gas. I think I've averaged 30, I think it said 39, doing all highway. I do mostly highway driving, except when I do stuff like this. But yeah, I averaged 39 in the highway doing reasonable speeds, like 55. Oh, there's a feller. And we're back on pavement. That's all I can think to say about this car. One thing I forgot to mention is that my whole wheel issue. So basically, the car came with aftermarket 17-inch wheels with the White Knight lug nuts on them. For those of you who know anything about those lug nuts, they need this stupid key, which is made out of like thin, like stamped sheet metal almost. And I broke 2 of these in the process of just doing basic repairs, like taking the tires off to get them, remounted and balanced. And that's because the previous owner torqued them on, didn't use any anti-seize, and they've been rusting. So I broke 2 of these, and that's why I didn't do the rear wheel speed sensors myself. I had the shop both, crack all the rust off of the wheel and then drill them out and do all that. But in the future, I'll probably do all my repairs on this car. I've already done an oil change, and I'm going to be replacing the oil pan gasket next oil change, if I need it. The oil pan gasket bolts were loose, like not torqued down all the way. They're supposed to be 7 Newton meters. They weren't quite there. I don't have a torque wrench, but from my, I don't think they were quite there. So if the oil leak continues, which it hasn't even, my car has not leaked oil since I retightened those bolts, I will change the oil pan gasket. Other than that, this car has been very reliable, so enjoy these cinematics.
This could be good for me. Lately I was feeling like I need a purpose. Searching for your place. Is it even there to find?